I would like to welcome you all in the second session of the session that has been jointly collaborated by the Chinese X Association and Youth Diplomacy Forum. So today the topic that we are going to discuss and we're going to have lectures on and the question answers today is the socio-economic reforms, industrial revolution in opening up. So I would like to call the first speaker, that's Dr. Mehmood Ul Hassan today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. Input on the given topic. So in this regard, I have already requested for the facility of screen sharing. I have a presentation, multimedia presentation. That's why I need the share screen facility. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible. The host may do it, please. Musawwir,
Okay.
if you may just start. That's fine.
Yeah. I hope that all the participants easily can see my multimedia presentation on the given topic. The moderator has already mentioned the given topic that stands for socio-economic reforms, industrial revolution, and opening of. So let us start. Yeah, there are different periods in which the policymaker and the politician of China started, institutionalized, introduced different valuable socio-economic reforms in order to eradicate poverty, achieve immense socio-economic prosperity, economic sustainability, massive industrialization, and the qualitative path of modernization. The first period started, rather was started in 1978 to 1984. That was initiated the Chinese pioneer of reforms, Deng Xiaoping. That the first reforms were initiated or introduced in agriculture sector because it was necessary to regulate the scattered land division. So that's why division of land into private plots, and the farmer had the right to acquire from the local administration or the state authorities by paying the money. The country was then open to foreign investment for the first time, and Chinese policymaker created lot of special economic free zone in 1984. Then China further opened 14 coastal cities to overseas investment. So by the way, I would like to mention that the most of the Chinese economic prosperity or massive industrialization are the outcome of special economic free zones. Yeah, let us start the second period that started 1984 to 1993. That was the era of decentralization of state control. Intentionally, I didn't include lot of economic terminology, keeping in view the different ranges of participants. So that's why I try my best to make it as simple as everybody could easily understand. Decentralization of the state control, because initially China was ruled by the centralized state control, and with the passage of time, it was decided to regulate or further regulate the economy by by initiating the decentralization. So that's why subsequently Shanghai Stock Exchange uh, was reopened, which was closed 40 years ago. Privatization was accelerated after 1992, and the private sector surpassed the state sector in the share of GDP. So right now, the private sector GDP percentage is more than 50%, which vividly reflects the series of socio-economic and industrial policies of different successive leadership of China during the span of 40 years, which succeeded or resultantly transformed the Chinese economy from primarily the state-owned uh, uh, apparatus to private orientation. So that's why most of the Western countries still believe, which is not based on their some statistical data, rather they have been relying on the false, fake, and fictional propaganda, highlighting the prominent or paramount amount role of the Chinese state enterprises. Let us start the salient feature of the third period, started from 1993 to 2005. Large-scale privatization was introduced, which secured a lot of good things in the Chinese economy and society. The number of state-owned enterprises decreased subsequently 40% during the same period. Reduction of tariffs. Tariffs means charges, fines, fees. Uh, Trade barriers were removed and regulations were made simple. So then again, a new concept was introduced, the one window operation. Reforms in banking and financial sector were introduced, which proved very healthy, productive, and participatory uh, for the opening of and achieving the desired socio-economic prosperity, economic sustainability, and massive industrialization in Chinese economy. Resultantly, the inflationary trends, price hike were controlled, and ultimately China joined the World Trade Organization, that stands for WTO. The domestic private sector first exceeded 50% of GDP, which I have already mentioned with you. Present and fourth periods, reversal of lot of primary goals of the economic reforms grew, uh, and that's why the role of private sector, digitalization, massive industrialization, ICT, IT, and the seeking of more and more private foreign investment, FDI, foreign direct investment. Somehow, during 2005 to onwards, keeping in view the different socio-economic dynamics and parameters. The successive government of China intentionally introduced lot of egalitarian and populist policies. In, nine, in 2013, the Chinese government established Shanghai Free Trade Zone, which has today have more than trillion US dollar GDP, which is a great significant role in the overall GDP of Chinese government. Salient feature of four uh, mentioned elaborated periods stand for typification. China has its own recipe or secret recipe of development's socio-economic prosperity, which started from gradualism. gradualism, slowly and gradually, the policymaker of China introduced a lot of integrated policies and efforts to achieve the desired goal of socio-economic prosperity. Experimentalism, that is a very good feature which I would like to share, that the initial economic reforms history or model of China was on experimentalism, or in other words, the prototype. Uh, Initially, a small town, village, or local county was selected for introducing of integrated socio-economic reforms, policies, and checked the fallbacks, the outcomes. So that model became a great or huge success for implementation or initiation of different socio-economic reforms, structural reforms at the national level. So let us talk about the CPC. You might be knowing that most recently, China, Communist Party of China, uh, the 20th rather CPC was held in Beijing, during which Xi Jinping, the incumbent president, was re-elected for the next 5 years. The first goal of CPC was, by the way, CPC was established, formed, or conceived almost more than 1 century ago, and the policy maker of China had a basic two goals. The one goal was to eradication of poverty, which they have achieved by pulling out more than 850 million people from extreme poverty. The other goal, which was rephrased or emphasized during the 20th CCP, uh, currently held in Beijing, was to pursue the second goal, which is the persuasion of socialist country in all respects to advance uh, uh, the the end goal, that is the qualitative path of modernization uh, and further opening up. Yeah, let us talk briefly about the Chinese socialist economic system. Right from the beginning, the policymaker of China noticed that only socialism with Chinese characteristics were the way forward. There are a lot of different economic system or philosophies have been going on in the world. One is capitalism, second is socialism, communism, and the combination of both. So the good thing is that China, right from the beginning, relied on the socialism with Chinese characteristics. It was the people-centric policies, immense social development, man and nature ideal combination, equality, protection of social, ethnic, and human rights. Yeah, let us talk briefly about the China's Industrial Revolution. It was started 40 years ago and is perhaps one of the most important economic and geopolitical phenomena since the original Industrial Revolution 250 years ago. China is creating new growth across Asia, Latin America, Africa, and even the industrial West, which is commendable. Yeah, secret of their industrial revolution. Um, the policymaker and successive Chinese leadership intentionally refused to take advice from Western economists, unlike what Russia did in 1990s. And ultimately, you know that Russia or former USSR were collapsed on the demise of economic sustainability and prosperity. Instead, the policymaker of China took a very humble, gradualist, experimental approach with its economic reforms. So what were the basic salient feature of economic or secret recipe of their industrial revolution? Utmost political stability, focus on grassroots, bottom up reform starting from agriculture, because that time agriculture was the main contributor of Chinese GDP. Promote rural industries despite their primitive technologies. It was a wise decision of the Chinese policymaker to, to primarily focus on the agricultural development and focus more on rural industry, small and medium enterprises, cottage industries, use manufactured goods instead of only natural resources to exchange the machinery, provide government support for infrastructure build-up, uh, and introduce the ideal combination of government and private ownership. Move up the industrial ladder from light to heavy industry, from labor to capital intensive production, from manufacturing to financial capitalism, and from a high saving rate to consumeratic welfare state. These are the three different period of China Industrial Revolution, started from 1978 to 1988 with the proto-industrialization supporting millions of rural enterprises, which I have already discussed. And the second one, 1988 to 1998, first industrial revolution, mass production of labor intensive light consumer good across China, rural and urban areas, relying first mainly on imported machinery. During this period, China achieved a lot of good things in terms of it has become the largest producer and exporter of textiles, the largest producer and importer of cotton, and the largest producer and exporter of furniture and toys. The last one, 1998 to present, second industrial revolution, mass production of means of mass production. Big surge in the consumption and production of coal, steel, cement, chemical, fibers, mechanical tools, highways, bridges, tunnels, ships, etc. So during this period, 2.6 million miles of public goods were built, including more than 70,000 miles of express highway, more than 46% in the US. 28 provinces out of 30 have high-speed trains with total length exceeding 10,000 miles, 50% more than the total for the rest of the world. Let us briefly discuss and share the strategic outcome of these industrial revolution of China. 40 years ago, it may be very interesting for all the participants because we have been talking about the high growth rate uh, of China in the last 2 decades remained the two digit. Two digit mean 10% of GDP. But 40 years ago, the China's per capita income was only 1/3 of that of sub-Sahara Africa. He was even more poor than the African countries. Today, China is the world's largest manufacturing powerhouse. It produces nearly 50% of the world's major industrial goods, including crude steel, cement, coal, vehicles, and China is also the world's largest producer of ship, high-speed trains, robots, tunnels, bridges, highways, chemical fibers, computers, and cell phones.